Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Respecting the Beer. My name is Gary Arndt. With me again, as usual, is the Wizard of Wort, the Baron of Beer, the Maharaja of Malt, Mr. Bobby Fleshman.
This is your last time hosting officially, right? So you prepared all that
As regular.
Regular.
That's a whole line we could have gone down in future episodes.
Nice.
We got a great guest today, coming to us from London, England, with the very British name, Mr. Horst Friedrichs.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Why don't we start out? Where are you originally from, and how did you wind up in England?
So originally I'm from good old Germany, Frankfurt. And I'm half Greek, half German, actually. And
Kind of like the British royal family.
Yes, indeed. But not so good to mention right now the royal family. It's a bit crazy at the moment. However, 1997, I moved to England from Germany. I drove over with my BMW, arrived in London, and I loved it. I don't look back. So I'm here almost over 30 years.
How do you compare that to coming from beer garden culture to the pub culture? It seems like maybe they're both very beer-centric locations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before coming to London, I had about 2 years living in Bavaria, in Munich. So I was a lucky chap, and I had that job to take pictures because I'm a photographer. So I had this job to do 2 months working for Löwenbräu beer. So that was a taster. So before coming to England, but it took a while till I got interested again into beer, because when I came to England, I was interested in the British subcultures, the mods, the rockers, cycle style, coffee style. And of course, the pubs, they are also sort of a subculture. They are very important because they say that pubs are the soul of the Brits. So, I was waiting till the end because as a German, you need to be careful if you don't really know so well about pubs. Then
One of the things I should mention, and the reason why you're on the show, is that you are a photographer and you have 2 books.
Yeah.
One is Local Legends, The Hidden Pubs of London, and the other is The Great Pubs of England. So you've spent a good time documenting pubs across the country and in London specifically.
Absolutely, Gary. I first did a book with my colleague Stuart Husband on the great pubs of England. And that was kind of like a good beginning because, as I mentioned before, I didn't know so well about pubs. And Stuart is a Brit, so he should know well about pubs. He knows well about pubs, but he was more interested in the food and not so much into the beer. So I had to do the second book, what is more focused on the wet pubs. There's a big difference between a pub that serves food and a pub that only serves beer or drinks. And if it comes to food, you could maybe get some crisps or a pie, this sort of thing, but not the pub food is also delicious. I mean, I love eating, but a proper pub serves only drinks.
I've heard this a couple times, but isn't the most popular dish served at pubs tikka masala?
Yeah, occasionally you find there is a pub actually in Putney down here close where I live, and that pub you're actually allowed to order takeaway, and it's most of the takeaway that people take is Asian food, and they have their pint there or Guinness and enjoy the food because they don't have a kitchen. It's sometimes a bit complicated to have a kitchen, and some pubs they like to focus really on the beers, on the ciders, on the drinks. What is, I think, quite understandable.
I don't know how much you know about our brewery, but my wife and I made a couple of trips, one to Cologne and one to pretty much all of the UK outside of Ireland. And we were inspired. She has since gone to Ireland herself, but we were inspired by the pub culture there, and we built something like that here. And what we built was just as you described, focused on the liquid. We're very much focused. We're a brewery, yes, but we're also a pub to the front-facing side. And I know what you mean by that. If you bring food into the equation, it's a different business. Not better nor worse, just very different. And we promote conversation, therefore. It's a lot easier when you're not sitting at a table with food to intermingle with the adjacent tables, we find.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, as you say, it's the atmosphere. For me, it was always, it sounds a bit funny, but a proper pub, I quite like, I'm into carpets, and it's the atmosphere. You come into a pub, it has this cozy feeling, this warmness, the cracking wood. It's almost like entering a movie, and it's, like you said, the atmosphere, and also the sound. Some pubs here, they don't play music. So back in the days, it was not a common thing with music, and even there are landlords or landladies that they would not allow a mobile phone, that people, because there are some tourists, they're coming, they're taking pictures. You should really suck in the atmosphere of, it's almost like an institution, like a holy place, a temple of beer, maybe, if you can say.
When we opened, we threatened to install we actually renovated this building, and we threatened to put wire in the walls, so chicken wire that would then prevent any cell signal, and that would force people to talk to each other.
I read you worked once for the NASA, so I believe you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called a Faraday cage. So I know we're talking about English pubs, but have you seen the documentary The Irish Pub?
I didn't see the documentary, but I still dreaming to do a book about Irish pubs. And I know they're very different and they're very special. And they even, UNESCO thinks about protecting them as a heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I would be quite open to. I love Ireland and I love Guinness. So yeah, let's do a book about Irish pubs.
When you set out to do these books, how do you identify what the greatest pubs? How do you identify that? Which
That's
which
a very
pubs
good
make
question.
cut? Are there
Yeah,
criteria
Gary.
you're working at?
Yeah, I wish I could put all that information into a big computer and then he will spit it out, and it's not that easy. So research is a big part of the job. So you start researching, Googling, find other books, you talk to people. That was for the first book. And to be honest, with local legends, the hidden pubs of London, I was actually approached by John Warland, who is a pub guide. So he is a really professional pub guide. He makes a living showing people pubs around London. And he approached me and said, like, so let's do now the book with the proper pubs. And I thought, like, this is quite arrogant, but I understood after this journey. So I was actually also, he taught me to, and he also respected my work because maybe I'm coming from the photographer side. So, there are some no-goes when there are pubs. Christmas is, for example, the worst time for me to take pictures of pubs because of the Christmas decoration. And it's not only Christmas decoration. There's now sometimes flags, and so rainbow flags, Union Jack flags, all that kind of decorations. You sometimes people get very offended, but I try to explain them when I do a book or a photograph. It cannot be dated, so it should be as neutral as possible. So that picture is also relevant in 100 years. So Yeah, I want the pub really, really pure. And, I start very early in the morning before the pub opens. I arrive with sometimes a lot of equipment because I have some lamps, I have tripods, a lot of tools. You have to sometimes remove like a lot of crazy things. I nearly once removed a fruit machine because it's sometimes the light that obstructs my photography. Yeah, but it was possible. And once you're inside the pub, hands on, you work, you start taking pictures, and it can take up to 4 or 5 hours till I get kicked out when the punters arrive, and they're all sometimes on the door, before the pub actually opens. And these are customers, for them, the pub is this community place. They come early in the morning to have their first pint, probably very old people, lonely. So for them, is a lifeline. It's a surviving place.
I was going to ask about how much do people play into your photography, the publicans and the regular patrons?
Definitely, I think the landlords and landladies, the owners, they're very, very important. Sometimes it's also the owner is a brewery, and if it's an independent pub, I try to get actually the landlady or the landlord. Can be also sometimes not easy. They're sometimes very eccentric people. And yeah, and it's great to meet them. And because I've been for my whole life to make money, to make an earning. I was a portrait photographer, and I photographed a lot of celebrities, famous people, from Bill Gates to Robbie Williams.
I saw Max Richter, which I was kind of impressed with because he's one of my favorite composers.
Oh, yeah. And that was a nice one. That was like 2 years ago in his studio. And he's pretty much quite, very quiet, almost shy person. Yeah, but I had one situation with a landlady. I'm not gonna say the name, which pub it was. It's a great pub, but the landlady is known for being a bit rude. She's actually not British. She's from Australia originally, and it was on the telephone when I told her about my project. It was for the Hidden Pubs book, the local legends, and she said, "So what do you want?" I said, my name is Horst Friedrichs." And then at some point she said, "Can you not speak proper English? Because I know I have a German accent." But the funny thing was when I went to the pub, took the pictures, I had a lunch, and then the landlady came to me and she gave me a big hug and he said, "Are you all right? Are you going to be fine with all that equipment?" Because I use a bicycle. So I got this sort almost like a bicycle full of bags and put my tripods on it. And we were almost like in arms. And that was very funny after that really troubling telephone call.
Personality.
So it's a bit an adventure. So
your book on the hidden pubs of London, I thought it was interesting because I've been to London many times, and there are these pubs that are like in an alley, or if you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't. I mean, it's not sitting right out in the street, and it's really obvious. Yet they have a client, neighborhood clientele, and they're these, I don't know, cozy little places.
And they often spill out into the alley and drink their beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary, very well observed, because there is a term, and I love that as a German, the Backstreet boozer. Yeah. So when you would say that to a German, they would say like, "Oh, holy hell, what is that? A Backstreet boozer?" But it's exactly like Gary said, it's this tucked away pub. And so it's a bit difficult to find. And yeah, that is the proper boozer. And that's part of the thing. And we tried that as well on the cover so we were thinking There's a pub in South London, and I forgot the name right now, but it's exactly like Gary said. It's like a bit setting back into the Backstreet, and it's been photographed from a lot of people, but that one serves food. So we choose for the local legends. We choose the. Let me look the name. Starting to forget. So here, so it's the Cockpit, because there used to be a place where they had cockfights in the pub. Imagine back in the days, and that exactly had that. Yeah, this feeling. It was not obvious, not on the high street. It was tucked away.
So Gary mentioned cathedrals. I've been listening to you and thinking about how much the pub parallels the cathedral. There's craftsmanship there. There is. It's emotionally, it's provocative when it comes to the community. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, where is the pub now? I know that your role is in documenting the pub in some way. And I wonder what your take is on its role in society in England and elsewhere.
Yeah, this is a very, very good question. And it's always discussed because the pub is a national institution. And so quite recently I saw a Scottish artist who actually set up an art space, like an artistic pub. So it was his dream from his childhood. What I found quite interesting, because I grew up in Germany near Cologne, and as you know, the beer is quite small there. The Kölsch, you can constantly.
It was one of my two major influences. Yes, the trip to Cologne.
But I love it. It's always fresh. And my uncle, so my aunt was the sister of my mother, so the Greek side, and my uncle was German, and it was always a very secret about him, because apparently he worked for the German Secret Service, and was a interesting fella, because he took me always to the German pub in the Kneipe. We call it Kneipe. And he put a lot of money in the gambling machine, and there was back in the days everybody smoked, so it was quite like, almost like magical, the smoke. This dude sitting there in the pub talking, and I was a little boy. I loved the machines, and I loved the smell also of the beer, because that mix with tobacco and beer, it was all like, the adult world. And I guess because also I was very small, so I could see, looked always up, and there were these guys, and, like quite shady characters. Because I remember there was a guy who always talked about Hamburg, about the sailors and the boxers. So it was really interesting, and more interesting than the TV, because German TV was back in the days very boring. Everything was dubbed with German. Everything was like, I don't know. It was a interesting world, and I guess I kind of like rediscovered this with the pubs here in England. They are absolutely atmospheric, and the people that drink there and go there, they're amazing characters I met there. And an interesting point is, in Local Legends, Hidden's Pub of London, the foreword is written by Sax, what is the singer of Madness, iconic band. They're still around, and there's a pub in London called in Camden, in Camden Town. It's a pub. It's called the Dublin Arms. Yeah. It's called the Dublin Arms, and it's a music pub. So music also takes sometimes, and there's some pubs, they also act as music venues. I guess in the States too. I mean, you have, tonight you have a concert on, no, in the pub.
That's
You
right.
have
Yeah,
some
with the
music.
Irish. Yeah, there's an Irish session tonight. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Irish pubs are super music influenced. But I remember when I did the Subcultures, so the Teddy Boys, they had this pub in Luton, outside of London, where the airport is. It was a really working class pub, but it was all about rock and roll, and the guys really dressed well with his suits, and the quiff, the sideburns, and the bolo tie, and rock and roll music, and then bands playing. It was quite intense and unique. And coming back to the guy who wrote the foreword, Sachs from Madness, he said they got famous. Before they got famous, they played in pubs, and the pubs, they were kind of like an entry to go to the bigger venues. So if you see British stars here, like Amy Winehouse, she started to work in a pub. So a lot of things, they start there in the pub because in the community, it's kind of like a place where you start your career and then you go for bigger venues or for bigger places.
And you see them not closing as fast as they once were. It feels like there was a blip where they were dropping off fairly quickly, but maybe I've heard recently that's turning around.
Yeah, look, Bobby, it's also, it's news that sells. I mean, I don't want to talk it down, especially not as a German. And there is a risk for many reasons. But I think when a landlady or landlord does the pub properly, and this is a lot of work. If you do your job properly, you will always survive in a place like London. And you may charge a lot of money for the drink because the prices are crazy. There are several problems. People drink less. Young people drink less alcohol. That's one problem. And then you go outside of London where you have a village and there is not so many punters, customers coming, and you have to maybe also serve food to make it more attractive. So that may be a problem. But I think the pubs that close down most of the time, they're not well. I think they did the job not really proper, because you know how it is. I guess with your pub, you do a good beer. You're dedicated brewers. You attract people probably coming from New York to your place. They want a proper craft beer, because you're dedicated. You put all your love with your wife. You work day and night, do an amazing product. And I think that screams for success.
So we usually ask this question at the end of an interview, but this is going to take you a while to answer. So I think we're going to ask it now. What would be, let's just say, what would be the top 3 or 4 pubs that everyone should visit in London or even in England? Because I know we had a lot of guests on here. John Keeling was the brewmaster from Fuller's, had some suggestions too. I figured you might have a couple.
Yeah, there is definitely. I mean, there's one pub that is absolutely, it's maybe not central London, so it's called the Palm Tree. It's a weird name, but it's called the Palm Tree, and it's in the East End, and it's an absolutely diamond boozer because it's you enter this place and it's like a time capsule. It's since the 70s, nothing has changed. It's you go to the bathroom, it's absolutely amazing. And they have Fridays, they have live music. And it's this old gentleman, in white dinner jackets. They, it's a little knee up dancing thing. But there's also a lot of young people because it's absolutely became a bit like a hipster, trendy thing. But it's good. And very important, bring cash. They only accept cash, no credit cards.
I imagine they have one of those old cash registers as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I know the one.
Yes,
Yep.
probably they have. It's actually, I photographed it in the book. So the Palm Tree is great. Yeah, it's not, the travel zones in London. You have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's probably zone 2 or zone 3. In central London, it's called the French House. It's an amazing pub in Soho. And I like this pub because the landlady is spectacular, as well. Her team there, the barmaids, is always, she has these also very young dancers who work in Soho. The punters, the whole demographic in that pub is amazing. There's upstairs is a restaurant, so it's separated from the pub. A really good restaurant. So when you're hungry, you can go upstairs when you get a table. Yeah, and of course, so I live in Kingston upon Thames, and walking distance from my house is a place called the Park Tavern. That's also a beautiful, very cozy pub with a gas fire, and you can watch football, and they particularly keen on not cricket. Is it football? Yeah, it's football.
Mm-hmm.
They love football.
Do you have any other future beer/pub related projects in the works that you're looking at?
Well, if that comes along, well, the next book is about Swiss watchmakers, and then I'm doing also, it's almost finalized, a book on Liverpool FC fan supporters, because that's also an interesting subcultures. And I spent 3.5 years photographing the football supporters in Anfield Road in Liverpool. And it's interesting because people from all over the world, there's a lot of supporters coming from the States. I had this great couple from Miami. So I took, in a period over 3 years, pictures there as well in the pubs. The pubs are a very unique. So they are. The whole pub is full of scarves and flags, and as more up you go in England to the north, like Manchester, Liverpool, people love singing. The football fans, they sing, they have live music in the pub. So you see, the pubs, they come through, but not in the watchmakers. The Swiss, they are not really.
Did you go to La Chaux de Fonds? I think it is in Switzerland. The
yeah, you're right. Yeah. But it's such an intense job because it's all this macro and small watches, and it's quite. I'm not saying that it's easy to get in all the pubs. Photography in those days is all about access. If you want to create something interesting, you need to get access. And with the watchmakers, it was really, really difficult. They're very private.
That reminds me, for whatever reason, my wife Allison and I went on a beer trip in northern England, Leeds, York. Ended up in Tadcaster, the home of Sam Smith and John Smith and another brewery. And there is no brewery that has tighter lips than Sam Smith. You cannot get past the lobby. They were surprised to see any tourists come to an 8,000 person town to see their open fermentation vessels. So I know what that means when you run against it in the beer world. There are some places that are difficult to get access to, for sure.
Oh yeah. Sam is a particular. I also photographed 2 pubs from Samuel Smith. Yeah.
Yep.
And there's one pub you're not allowed to swear. No swearing. So yeah.
Excellent. Good luck.
Yeah, it's not only tight-lipped, I can imagine, but it was quite difficult. I agree with you. I had also some not so easy moments with them, but I sent a copy of Great Pubs of England to I guess it's the CEO from Samuel Smith So the director, the director. And so when I photographed the pub in London, I'm looking it up, he actually specially came down to London and he said, look, we are so happy with the job you did about, the great pubs of England, how you photographed the pubs. Really, really happy. That happened all the time, with people there. First, because they don't know you, they're quite suspicious. But when they see, it's in the book and it looks great, they're very grateful. That's really fun.
And I love that about the English culture. I'm sure that's it cuts two ways, but the Tide House, these breweries had control of the liquid all the way into the hands of the consumer. And I know that's difficult when you're a small brewery. I am one trying to get into that market, but in any case, it makes for an entire encapsulated experience that's curated by that brewer. Those pubs have so much character.
Yeah, it's, of course, I guess, every place that makes things, they're, of course, secretive, whether you go to a whiskey distillery. I did also book on Scotch in Scotland. And there, and you as a brewmaster, you know there was the risk also of, because it's spirit, it can explode. You can have an explosion if you do something wrong. So you have to, whether you have an insurance or you have to do certain tests, so you know how to behave. You have no idea how unrespectful, not only, when you go into a pub, when you go into a brewery or a normal house, that's rule number one, it's the respect, how you behave and respectful you go. Because these pubs, the people, they put almost their whole life inside the work. So when they open up, and it's all clean and fresh, and there's so many stuff going behind the scenes, whether they have to prepare the orders and to I learned as well, like, it's not so easy, to have all this good beer taste. You have to clean the pipes and do all these things, is a hell of a work, a pub,
Yes.
I looked yesterday, actually, because I wanted to know where you guys are. So, yeah, so
I did too
nice,
before
like
we moved.
Montana. I saw this couple of places. They're like really in the corner. I went once to Canada, Winnipeg, what was also fun. But yeah, America is quite big. And so also I have two daughters, and one daughter wants to go to LA, the other one wants to go to New York. So I was thinking maybe road trip.
There you go. Yeah,
Maybe a beer trip. A beer
is
road
as
trip.
much the drink of the United States as it is for Germany or England, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I saw several things on TV. You have this, and I'm a barbecue guy, so all this pulled pork and the barbecue culture. That's also something, and I think that will go incredibly well with good beer.
Absolutely, yes.
Although, fair warning,
iconic.
I've met a lot of Europeans that completely misjudge the size of the United States. And they think they're going to drive to Chicago for the afternoon from New York. And it just doesn't work that way.
Oh, there is no train on which to jump on either. No, there are, but
they're not good.
Yeah, well, I definitely know I will take my time because, my whole life I've been doing, talking about, in kilometers, not miles, maybe 20,000 kilometers. I did this kind of things, but you need to take the time. And I think one of my things on the bucket list is doing a road trip. But yeah, I need the money and the time to do it. But before I die, I want to do this trip.
You're also not at want for any number of pubs within arm's length, miles from where you're sitting right now. There's so many pubs in the UK and in London.
I know, yeah.
So don't. It's not that bad that you can make it here in the meantime.
Yeah, it's about 4,000 pubs. Yeah,
right.
I don't. I also think I want to see also different things. I mean, so I'm quite open to. I love the States. I would connect it with a lot of other things because I also love the food there. like also, I never forget, we was actually doing a book on bookstores, and we included, we had an amazing trip. We went to first to to New York. We went first to photograph some bookstores, fantastic bookstores. Then we went to San Francisco to photograph some very beautiful bookstores. And yeah, one morning, actually, we found a parking space in New York with our rented car because it was the only holiday. I forgot the name of the holiday, but we had a parking space in front of the hotel. So we left early in the morning to go to Philadelphia to this barn bookshop. It's like a candy box, a bookstore in the middle of a beautiful landscape. The American flag hangs outside. You go inside, there's a little stove, there's like everything like cozy, unbelievable, beautiful pictures. And yeah, I mean, that was a bit of a road trip, and that kind of like told me again, it's possible. And everybody was friendly wherever we went. We went to these diners. We had pancakes. It was really like in the movie. I'm very romantic, And to go back to the pubs here in England, we did. So the pubs here in London, I did with my bicycle, but the pubs in England, we did, with a car. So we went, sort of like a road trip. So when we went to Manchester, we had, one or two pubs. One pub a day. You can never do two pubs in a day. That is very difficult.
When you commit to the Irish book, my wife and I will meet you there.
Absolutely. Deal.
There's so much to see there.
All right. Well, where can people find you online?
Yeah. So, I'm on Instagram. Yeah, my name is not so easy. Horst Friedrichs. That's quite German. But yeah, you find me easily. So if you use the word Horst, Horst, and you put either pubs or rockers, you will find me.
All right. And both of your books, I'm sure David will put to links in the show notes so people can go check it out on Amazon.
Fantastic.
And that'll conclude this episode of Respecting the Beer. The producer of Respecting the Beer is David Kelso. Without David, there wouldn't be a show. Join our Facebook group for updates and support the show over on Patreon. Patreon and Pub Club members, you can get exclusive. As Patreon and Pub Club members, you can get access to exclusive content, including bonus show segments and special events hosted here at McFleshman's. The links to both of these are in the show notes. And until next time, please remember to respect the beer.